Hello, Irish fans, and welcome to another edition of Dome and Domer. My name's Mike Brammer. Joining me tonight, Ed Jordanek. Also joining us from IndyNation.com, Mike Coffey. So first question I got, man, did you see the production of the coaches? I thought that
Yes,
was really well done.
that
Like
was
I'm usually not a big fan of that, but man, that one was done pretty cool.
they
Got to
they
give
did a fantastic
whoever
job
did
on it, no doubt
that,
about
give
it.
him a big, huge thumbs up. That was pretty damn cool. So,
Absolutely.
Ed, did you see it? I'm guessing you
Nope.
did. All right, there you go.
Oh, dude, run, do
So
not
it
walk.
was
See
kind
that
of a
video.
replay of.
Yeah, no, I heard about it.
Yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
really cool. I got to be honest with you. I thought it was really well done. I'm usually not a big fan of that stuff, but man, that was pretty cool. Now the problem is you got to back it up because now you play Louisville at Louisville, 7:30 at night, same old thing. But anyways, so it's a big, huge question for you to start. Ed, I'll start with you. The, I think it's fair to say that Notre Dame going into the game are coming off an emotional loss to Ohio State, where they did play 4 full quarters of good, solid football. You then go into another hostile environment, game day, ESPN, all of that stuff. To have the game go the way that it did and then end the way that it did, I mean, I think you got to give some big time credit to the program as a whole to pull off that win, knowing that things didn't like go their way during the game, right? And to having gone through 8 full quarters of just like intensity like that and to pull out the win, it's gotta bode something good, right? I mean, it's got to point you in the right direction, at least on some things, in spite of the pre-snap penalties, all that stuff we could talk about.
I mean, I think it all comes back to how you look at Notre Dame football, right? So you look at Coffee's shirt, right? It's half full.
It's
So,
half full or it's half empty, one or the
right,
other.
exactly. So if it's half
Positivity,
full,
Mofos, positivity.
yeah, if it's half full, then you talk about the resiliency of the team, their ability to get it done when it mattered. You can talk about the fact that they faced some demons after a really tough loss, and they found a way to win. On the road against a ranked team. If your glass is half full, then you're going to focus on the penalties. You're going to focus on the head scratching Marcus Freeman, thinking about, going
Down
going
it at the
down.
1 yard line.
Yeah, you're gonna with a field goal kicker who's less than
Who's not exactly
40
been
yards.
elite. Yeah.
I
Can
mean,
you imagine what would have happened if he would have done that? Let's say Audric downed it. Okay.
Yeah.
He downs it. We do 3 and out. All 3 timeouts are burned. You get it down to like what, 30 seconds. Can you imagine if
No,
we
I
would
don't
have
want to
walked
imagine
out and missed the field goal?
that. I don't want to imagine that.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I don't even want to begin where those conversations would have gone.
I mean,
Like,
whether it's the NFL or college football, I mean, head coaches are doing a lot of things that just make you shake your head.
it's analytics. It's
Well,
Yeah,
it's small.
they have stat
It's
sheets as long. They have stat sheets as long as your arm, saying in this situation with this
yeah,
down go.
yeah.
And
If you
it's
you know what, if you just do nothing but coach off of statistics, well then shit, anybody could be. Coffee, you could be the next head coach in Notre Dame. If all you
wouldn't we
do is
all
look
be
at the
way better off for that, or not?
But I mean,
No,
if,
but I
if
mean,
that's all you're doing is looking at statistics and percentages and coaching based off that, I mean, come on, man, that's crazy.
Freeman alluded to the fact that he has that information at his fingertips, and he uses it, but it doesn't. But there's a couple things going on here that that I don't know if you guys. I think his last name is Adams, but there's this guy that nobody knows about really. I mean, they've written about him a little bit. That's kind of Bill Belichick's sort of voice in his ear, and he sits up in the press box every game, and he basically has a direct line to Belichick, and he just knows the game really well, and he tells him about things that that he notices, And I think Freeman needs somebody like that.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
somebody to say, listen, you've got 10 men on the field. You got 10 men on the field.
Confidence.
Or
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Or like, listen,
Yeah.
that's not reviewable. That's not a reviewable play. You know, like
Yep.
these are the kind of things that matter, you know, in a game of inches in a college football season where a single loss can derail your chances for, you know, for for a playoff spot. And what's concerning to me about Saturday, I mean, there are a couple things. I mean, I don't know offensive line play well enough, but there was issues.
Oh, for sure.
And maybe some
For
of that was
sure.
a stubbornness by Parker to keep running the same sort of, you know, dive play or whatever it was up the middle, or maybe it was just a poor blocking scheme. And I'm never going to be one not to give credit to the other team. I mean, sometimes I think we get so wrapped up in our own team that we forget the other side has scholarships and some pretty good coaching. And it's kind of interesting to me that, you know, Elko had these guys prepared. They played really hard. They played really well. And then when he had a chance to go for the kill shot, he blew it.
He did.
Mean, they had us on their heels.
Yeah, I'm with you, Ed, there. I was surprised I think they should have gone for it.
Oh, 100%.
If they go for it and convert it, the game's over. They win. It's you know what I mean? Like that's it.
They had been pushing us around.
Yeah.
You know, they hadn't given up any points to us. He blew it. He should have gone for it.
I agree. I think he should have gone for it.
If he doesn't make it, he's still a 50-50 chance of winning the game.
You at least do an RPO in that situation and let him make the call. And you know what I mean? Like you just at least give him the chance. That's what I thought. Pooch.
See, as I said on our site, the brilliant call is always the one that works. I mean, as well as Duke's defense was playing, if you would have said we're going to pin Notre Dame back on their own 5-yard line with what was it, like a little over 2 minutes to play, and if you would watch the game up till then and seen how our offense had performed and how their defense was performed, maybe you say, no, that's the call to make, especially when their field goal kicker's 0-2.
Listen, when I say this kind of stuff, you guys got to understand. I only say it if I was screaming at the TV while it happened.
Oh, of course.
I'm not looking at reverse. No, I'm serious. I'm not looking at reverse because I know that you're right. You could always, you know, look at the result and say they should have done this or they should have done that. But I think that like when you're the underdog, when you're trying to make your mark, when you're playing a big time opponent, and Notre Dame is a big time opponent for every school, for every team that they play, especially at Duke, and you have a chance to step on their throat, I would much rather go to bed that night feeling like, you know, shit, we just didn't get it. We didn't get it done, than feeling like I had a chance to take out the king and I didn't do it.
And I will say, philosophically, yes, I do agree with you. I'm just pointing out that statistically, again, or getting back to the stats, I can see maybe why he made that call, given how the performances go. But I think you have to be like
going for fourth down on their own 20-yard line in the first. I mean, it doesn't make any sense what they're doing, whatever these sheets say. But I think we've gotten away from a feel for, and I don't think Elko is one of these guys.
Oh, no doubt.
Is a slave to the call sheet, or I mean, not a slave to the stat sheet or whatever. But I mean, you know, whatever. I mean, that's Duke's problem. I'm you know, but if I was a Duke fan, I would be like, you know,
you fought for 4 quarters. Right. You got all the way to that point. Right. Why would you not at that point take the gamble? You got to the points that you wanted to get to. Yep. You're in the game with Notre Dame. You're up in the 4th quarter. And why not take a gamble on 4th and 4?
We were clearly on our heels.
We were absolutely on our heels.
Yeah.
Oh, and speaking of other coaching decisions, I was glad to see when it was 4th and 16 or whatever that Duke's defensive coordinator reads from the same book as Golden does and rushes 3 and puts 8 back.
Yeah, exactly.
The damn thing happens.
Yeah, but Coffee, I mean, you would do that. Think about it. 4th and 16. Why are you going to send everybody? That's the last thing in the world you're going to do. You're going to make it. You know what I mean? You're going to force him to throw into tight coverage into a tight window.
True, but then if you're going to do that, you can't have everybody standing 6 yards behind the line to gain. You need to put these guys on that line to say you're not getting.
I know, but Coffee, believe me, the last thing in the world anybody thought was going to happen was that Sam Harden was going to run for 17 yards. I mean, that is the last thing anybody was thinking.
I think it was a pretty good call because they had Hartman running for his life with a 3-man rush. I mean, that's how they were whipping us at the line of scrimmage on both sides. So I think, I mean, when you sort of are able, he's like, shoot, we can get to the quarter with three guys. Why shouldn't I drop 8 into coverage? Now they may not have executed it that well, or they may have had a couple guys that were afraid someone was going to slip past them and Hartman was going to hit them way down the field, or whatever. But I had much more.
You don't think he's going to get 17 yards? I mean, you're not concerned with Hartman running it because in most cases he's not going to run it. He's going to let the ball fly, and take his chances
because that's what he's good at, right?
He's good, exactly.
He's good at extending the play and finding the open receiver. His only problem Saturday night was he didn't have any receivers who knew how to get open.
He didn't. I hate to say this, but I saw a lot of replays from behind. There was nobody open.
Yeah.
And that's a concern. Like, we had Jaden Thomas was out, Grayhouse was out, but man alive, we had no separation from the wide receivers. None. Zero.
I think they kind of missed Salerno too,
big time.
He was
zero separation.
He could find some separation, and Stays has disappeared the last 2 weeks. But thank God for Mitchell Evans. But Elko, after that first quarter, first half or whatever, he bracketed Evans on every play because he knew that he could, play man on those other guys and be just fine.
That's
exactly. Yeah. I think more concerning is being able to move the ball consistently on the ground. I mean, I think that's still, if this team is going to be successful and win out, it's going to have to do that in every single game. It's going to have 4.5, 5 yards a carry, as an average. And they did not do that. They were fortunate to win.
Yeah, and that's a good, a perfect transition point, Coffee. So going into Louisville, so you're not going to see the defensive line that you saw at Duke, and I do give a lot of credit to. I think Duke's defensive line is arguably better than Ohio State's. I honestly believe that 100%.
I could see that.
I honestly, truly believe that. I think they were that good.
And their best player was a Notre Dame transfer.
Right.
Well, and I think part of it, you got to look at Elko. I mean, he comes from the defensive side of the ball.
He's a great coach.
When he was at Notre Dame,
a good coach.
Our defense played very well when he was at Notre Dame. I mean, he's an outstanding coach, and he knows how to get his guys to play up. Now, that's not to say that coaches on Notre Dame side, but I think Elko has elevated Duke's program to a level where I think people don't necessarily expect them to be as good as they are, and I think they really are. Now, to your point, I don't think Louisville is going to be as good. I think they're going to be smaller. I think they're going to be maybe a little bit faster, though. So I think to my mind, this would be a prime candidate for like misdirection plays, for screens, for the kind of plays that are going to take advantage of a fast player who's going to be over enthusiastic, might over pursue, leave a gap behind him or beside him that can be taken advantage of. And I'd like to see a little bit more of that because the offense the last couple weeks has just seemed so vanilla. And I'm not seeing the counter runs. I'm not seeing there was obviously one screen pass we saw last week, but we didn't see any of that this week, where just something to kind of knock the defense, the front seven of the defense out of their comfort zone, put something there with, give them a little more to think about so they can't just pin their ears back and go after Sam Hartman. If we need them to be not necessarily staring, looking around, do I got to go left? Do I got to go right? The minute you get them looking around and thinking too much, that's when the mistakes happen.
Yeah, no, I'd agree. It's so to that point that Coffee's making, Louisville has some extreme athletes, I think more than what Duke had. So if you look at some of the skilled positions, Louisville's got guys that Duke did not have.
Yeah.
Now, however,
remember, Jeff Brom is to offense as Mike Elko is to defense. Like Jeff Brom is very good offensive mind and a good coach, and he I think part of the reason part of the reason he was able to go to the portal and get some of these guys is because he knows that he has that reputation of being able to turn churn out these Rondell Moore types and, churn
Yeah.
out some of these quarterbacks
Yep.
and make them into draft picks possibly. So, yeah, no, we're going to have our hands full again. I mean, Louisville definitely has more football sort of tradition and a better fan base. I mean, than Duke.
Yep.
Louisville's got, they filled up that stadium for these games before, and they're going to be crazy. So, it's going to be another tough environment, another tough place to play. And to me, we'll be okay if we don't. I mean, the most concerning stat about Saturday night was third down. We were terrible on third down. I mean,
but for 2 games in a row. That's not.
And the reason for that is because we put ourselves in 2nd and 9, 3rd and 7, 2nd and 11, 3rd and 9. Over and over and over again. And Sam Hartman's really good, but the reason he had success in the first 2 or 3 games is because Audric Estime was getting 6 or 7 yards a carry. I mean, that doesn't. That covers up a lot of sins and a lot of inexperience of your receiving core. So if they're working on anything this week, I hope it's, obviously they're gonna have to throw the ball to keep, Louisville honest, and hopefully they can, with Thomas and Greathouse back, that'll help. But man, they better figure out a way to move the ball on the ground and to run confidently on 3rd and 3, on 3rd and 2, on 3rd and 4.
You got to have that confidence to do that. But a coffee to Ed's point, I think the other concern, I don't know, maybe I'm blowing this up too much than I should, but to have the number of pre-snap penalties that we had, that's not a good sign. And usually, I mean, 9 times out of 10, I think that when you look at coaching, you look at the number of penalties in terms of the effect of coaching and the number of turnovers. Those are the 2 things that you look at in terms of a team that signify what is the level of detail of coaching. And I think that clearly is a concern. It's a head scratcher because we didn't do it in the first 4 games.
Yeah, it's just the last 2 have really, and I don't know whether
the last 2 you kind of scratch your head and you're like, all right, what's going on?
Is it the step up in competition that has the players playing more tight? Is it like the false start penalties of the offensive lineman thinking I've really got to get off my block because this guy across from me is like 10 times better than anybody I faced in the first 4 games? That's certainly possible, but I completely agree that if they're not going to get out of this stretch of 4 games with only 1 loss if they don't discipline their play, because you can't be shooting yourself in the foot. You can't be ending up with 1st and 15 or as you were saying, Mike, 1st and 15, 2nd and 11 or whatever. You get there because of penalties. I think overall, the offensive line has done a relatively decent job keeping Sam Hartman upright. But if you false start, that's just like giving up a sack, because now you're coming up with you're 5 yards back. It completely changes your play call, and it's self-inflicted injuries that just get so, as you said, it's so frustrating to watch, and you can't beat the other team if you're too busy beating yourself.
Yeah.
My sense is that if Marcus Freeman, could take his bye week this week instead of 2 weeks from now, he would do it.
Exactly. I agree.
Absolutely.
And
he could really use it right now. I agree.
Yeah. I mean, we don't talk about it, because these are, young kids and, oh gosh, they don't get, but you got to remember, midterms are next week. They do have to go to a class. They do have to turn in some assignments. They had a really mentally and physically draining loss to Ohio State, and they just had a mentally and physically draining, trip to Duke. And so, can they? I think the real thing is, I mean, are Louisville and USC beatable? 100%. They should win both games, and I think if they had a bye week this week and then played Louisville and USC, I think they'd be, but. So definitely. it's going to be, they really got to reach down. And I think it's on the coaching staff to sort of pull that out of them, and get them to that bye week, focused, because to me, those mistakes that you guys are talking about, what's concerning to me is, they were committed by supposedly the backbone of the team and your smart guys, your offensive linemen.
Right. Right.
You can't.
Corral. I mean, like,
Jeez.
how do you do 2 missed snaps? Like,
Yeah,
you rarely see that in a single season, let alone twice in the same game. I mean, that was kind of weird.
No, I think to Ed's point, and let's remember, because we all marvel, wow, the season, it's barely October and the season's half over already. Well, yeah, because they played 6 games and they started early because of the week 0 game.
Yeah,
they're going to go 8 games before they get a bye, and that early in the season. And yeah, we do talk about because they're young guys, but that can be draining, especially when
that's
you
a
have
lot. I
4
agree.
tough
It is
games
a
right
lot.
there in a row at the end.
100%. It's a lot to
So
ask.
that's going to be that's going to be yet one more challenge that. I mean, I've always said I'm a big Marcus Freeman fan, but let's also remember he's a second-year head coach. I mean, he's never had to do this kind of thing before, and so it'll be interesting to see how he can get the team up, not only physically but also psychologically.
Yeah.
Because eventually you got to think the tank's running dry. It needs to be replenished, and then I don't know, 2 weeks off in the final 4 weeks or final 6 weeks. I don't know who put this schedule together, but they should have broken this first bit up, or maybe they should have played Navy when they were supposed to and not done this Ireland boondoggle. But that's another rant.
No, that's a yeah. No, you're right. I mean, to me, like, scheduling, the art of scheduling. It seems like every school in the country, schedules their bye week around us. Except, and we've got Clemson. We've got Clemson, USC, and Ohio State this year, and we play the week before all of them. Now, you can make an argument that, it's good to sort of be on your, sort of on your toes. And I think, the Clemson, you want to play Pitt before you play Clemson after your bye week.
Sure.
That works out in our favor.
Shake the rust off.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And the same with the left too. I mean, you get Wake Forest at home, and then of course that assumes, like, it wasn't that long ago that Stanford was a quality road opponent to close out the year. But from that standpoint, things were set up fine. It's just, I think if Louisville was the Louisville we were expecting them to be at the beginning of the season, we would be looking at the schedule. Okay, this is good. This is kind of a breather game. Yeah, it's on the road and all that. But Brome has them playing way, way better than I think a lot of people expected. So it's going to be a tough one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the last point I wanted to make, and I do kind of want to circle back to this because I think it is an interesting discussion in light of, the NFL versus college football, why college football is so, I believe, much more enticing than the NFL. But, the comment that Freeman made in the press conference, because I do think it caught a lot of people by surprise, like when he said it, it was kind of off the cuff, but it was almost like, hey, we've actually talked about this. This is something we've discussed as a football team. And the moment that it happened, you're watching the game, and about the last thing in the world you would have expected is Audric Estime to kneel down at the 1-yard line. Can you imagine what that would have looked like had he busted through like that? Kneel down at the 1 and place the football down, and then we're like,
am I remembering correctly? Did that happen to us sometime in the last couple of years? So we were down and someone and then knelt down to keep the clock running. Was it Stanford or something? I seem to remember.
No, we had a guy that slowed. We had a guy that slowed up, but then he eventually did cross the end zone. So he did slow up and kind of go sideways, and then eventually cross.
Well, I think what's more concerning is we had the ball in the 30, and thoughts are going through his mind about, just running the ball into
kicking a field goal,
setting up a field goal, a 47-yard field goal.
Yeah, that's it, right? Exactly.
With this, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde kicker that we have. So that part, to me, I mean, even if you're playing for a field goal, I think you still want to, do what you can to get another 15 yards.
Get a few more yards.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, and part of it is, I think, Mike, going back to what we talked about earlier about the the more involvement of statistics in the game, or is there a sheet somewhere that says, I think with this kicker with a huge leg, are we better off? And the way the offense has been playing, let's just keep on running. And I don't know if it was necessarily talked about, and I don't know how seriously they were saying, oh, Estimate should have knelt down. I from watching the press conference, I got the vibe that it was just him, something he was just kind of chuckling about. I don't know how serious to take it, but
I would like to believe that, but I don't know.
No, I would too, but I also think we also live, not only do we live in a world that is overly obsessed with statistics, but we're also live in a world, and I say this as someone who owns a website, we're always looking for the next clicky story, the next story that's going to get everybody jumping. We milked everything we could out of the 10 men on the field and all that. Oh, and by the way, the person who had the sign saying Manti Te'o's girlfriend was Notre Dame's 11th guy, I got to admit, I laughed. I thought that sign was hilarious. But anyway,
I didn't see that.
This is just
one
of those things that it's a storyline that people can jump on. Oh, look, the inexperienced head coach is sticking his foot in it again, and it's something they can talk about where the anti-Notre Dame people can say, ha, 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 ha. And I don't know how serious it was. And quite frankly, it doesn't bother me all that much because it's not like he came off the field and they were yelling at him for not kneeling down. I think it was just it was something they thought of, and the inexperienced head coach mentioned it.
But I'm sure they talked about it, but yeah, in the heat of the moment, man, in light of just the whole flow of the game and everything, that was about the last thing in the world.
Oh, no doubt.
I thought I would have seen.
I thought it was, sort of more concerning to me is, and I'm not quite sure, I've read exactly how this went down, but they were obviously having trouble getting a play in. I mean, Hartman was getting really frustrated.
It was down to 8 seconds.
Yeah. So, that was kind of, a little bit crazy. I mean, I think we have to be honest, like the last, 2 weeks, the last 2 games, Freeman talks a lot about execution. It's not as much about the play call. It's doing what we want to do and executing well.
Yeah.
Well, the execution on the part of him and the staff has not been great the last 2 weeks.
No.
It's really been, it's really, and they got away with it Saturday. But we have to really tighten some of that stuff up.
Yeah.
Because if we get into another, sort of close encounter, that kind of stuff costs you a game.
And part of it also, I think, is emotion, because you see that the coaches they're firing their players up, and I don't say this from the standpoint that, oh, it's okay. No, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, they do need to tighten this stuff up. They need to be ready with the play call. So I think part of what happened, like with the 10-man thing last week, is that Freeman was uncertain what he wanted to see out there defense-wise, and by the time he made the choice, it wasn't able to be communicated to the guy who was supposed to be out there. I think part of it is you're in a highly emotional situation in an incredibly closely watched game. Everyone's fired up. Everybody's all on edge. A head coach needs to be able to set all that aside and say, okay, I'm thinking about if this 4th and 16 works, I'm thinking about what the next play is going to be. If this, once he spikes it, this is how we want to have things go, and then be ready to get the play in there and not get caught up in the great play that Sam Hartman made and how well Audric Estime ran that last touchdown run. When you get caught up in that sort of thing, you stop thinking about the strategy. And when you stop thinking about the strategy and suddenly have to switch gears back to, oh, wait, what were we going to do? Those are precious seconds, and you can't let them go by.
Well, I graciously volunteered to be his Belichick-esque eye in the sky and to keep track of all this stuff for him.
I said that
football's rain man, Ed Jordanic, ladies and gentlemen.
Right after the game, I called Sully and I'm like, hey, man, I just assumed that there was a graduate assistant who was up in the skybox, and his job was to count the number of players on every single play. I just, if nobody's doing that, I'll do it right now. I'm willing to offer myself right now today. Give me a free ticket, and I promise you, I'll count every guy on the defense, every play.
That's the thing. They don't need a graduate assistant. What they need is some, 50-something with no life who's watched so much football in their life.
It's not going to allow that to happen because they can't live with that.
Between the three of us, the stuff that we notice, is way beyond, I hate to say it, but we're more tuned into these games than Jason freaking Garrett. Like sometimes I wonder what he's watching. like we certainly know more than
he's getting a paycheck to just do it. He hasn't been living this since 2006.
No.
He's not as invested. That's the thing.
Oh,
Exactly.
absolutely.
Right.
Exactly.
Jason
So,
Garrett
all
can
right.
sleep just fine. I was up until 3 a.m. after
Yeah,
that.
I was too,
couldn't
man.
get
I
the
was flipping
adrenaline
through
out.
like, all right,
Jeez.
well, how do we interpret this? I was the same way. Cool. All right, well, let's cut over to the predictions. Coffee, I'll start with
Brammer,
you.
first of all, Brammer, I'm really proud of you because I thought that in true Brammer fashion, we were going to start this podcast with you railing on the refs for about 10 minutes.
I wanted to, believe me.
I can't believe.
I wanted to go there, but I was like, you know what? This is just a waste of time because it's the constant. I mean, to literally have. Well, to your point, Ed, you said that we need a guy on the staff that's able to tell Freeman, hey, this is not a reviewable call. Just tell Freeman. So Freeman can turn to the ref and say, like, dude, man, hate to break the news to you, but this is not reviewable. Can you pass that back up to the – I mean, this is just ridiculous.
Although
that call that got overturned, and I don't know, I thought it was to the right of the pylon. I've got other people telling me, no, I think it was over the pylon. I'm like, I watched it. I thought it was to the right.
Yeah, that's why it's not reviewable.
Exactly. There's not indisputable video evidence that says that it was over the pylon. There's not. Hate to break the news to you, but it's not.
Listen, they have issues. These
oh my God,
they really have issues.
Yeah, it's horrible.
I literally, I wasn't even like trying to find holding calls, and like 4 of them just jumped off the screen.
You could have easily. There were several that they did not call that were like, oh my God, are you serious? Like, and it's just frustrating as hell because I know that, I don't know. I think we need to open that up on a totally different podcast because we need like 5 minutes
I just thought
to dissect that. But I had Sully sent me some statistics about the number of calls going back the last 5 years in terms of who are the most penalized teams in the nation. And it's all the top teams, but Notre Dame particularly has suffered pretty bad. The 1 year that they didn't was the year they were in the ACC conference. That was their best year for penalties not called against them. Every other year, not even in the top 50. They're like one of the worst teams in America.
Well, I mean, I do think that it is to me, it's a disturbing trend. And I think it's designed to protect quarterbacks, but it's drifted into all phases, is that holding is not called.
It's not.
It's just not called.
You just call it whenever you want to call it.
And Cam Hart, Marvin Harrison Jr. had his shoulders, in his jersey, in his grasp on the long touchdown run by Ohio State. There were a half dozen plays where, I thought holding, at least that they're going to call it when somebody's, guy's arm, lineman's arm is across a defensive guy's neck. But Howard Cross probably would have had 9 sacks and 17 tackles for losses if they called holding. I mean,
exactly.
It's really, it's
frustrating as hell.
Yeah.
And just on the targeting call on Botello. When is the last time you saw a targeting call?
I've never seen that.
Below the guy's waist.
I've never seen it.
It's like
forget about above his shoulders.
I've never heard of that call until it got called on us. I was like, wait a minute, that's a call? That's a thing?
Below the guy's waist, they call targeting.
Well,
that's just dumb.
I can't. Please, somebody in this ecosphere, send us several references of calls in college football games where that's happened, because I don't know of one.
Well,
I don't know of a single one.
Somebody put like 5 or 6 clips together of that same game Saturday night with guys getting hit with helmets in their butt, in their hip, that all technically, I guess, meet these guys' definition of targeting. And I'm sorry, but it is useless to have these ex-refs in the booths for these games providing commentary. No. All they do is stick up for their jackass brethren.
Yeah.
And it's they never are going to contradict a call, and they're going to make stuff up if they have to, just to make their guys look good. I mean, it's just worthless. Get them out of here.
Yeah.
They need us.
I thought it was pathetic. I literally thought it was absolutely pathetic. I've never seen that call anywhere in any college football game. And I don't watch every college football game, but I do watch a lot. And that's the first time I've seen it below the waist.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
you know,
Targeting, hitting the guy in his thigh with your helmet. Sorry, you're gone.
yeah,
You can't play the next game.
yeah, that, I mean, it has real consequences. You know,
Huge
it's not just a
consequences.
15-yard penalty. I mean,
No.
he can't play the first half Saturday night.
Yeah.
And that's, oh God, just
Unbelievable.
yeah.
Just crazy. All right, Coffee, what's your prediction?
Well, I've been kind of going back and forth. I mean, it's like, which offense are we going to see? Can the
Yeah.
offense really get themselves on track and get back to the quality? I am going to say Notre Dame is going to win it 31-20.
There you go.
Okay.
I'm very close to you. 31-17. I think that the field goal, I think we might have some late stuff, you know, it kind of slips in. But I do think 31-17. I think we turn it around a little bit and execute. Ed?
Mm-hmm.
I was intrigued by the Louisville, North Carolina State score being such a low scoring game.
Yeah.
13-10. But I think that, you know, if Louisville only scored 13 points against NC State, it's going to be tough for them to score 30 points on us, or you know. So
Yeah.
I think you guys are right, kind of in that, you know, 2 touchdowns, 3 touchdowns max scored by then. So I'll say, and I think the offense will kind of break out of their little mini slump. So I'll say 38-20.
Nice.
So we're
Well,
all about the same, yeah.
supposedly Gradenhouse is still a little bit of a question mark. It's not definitive he's playing. But apparently Thomas is back.
That'll help.
And I think that's a big, huge difference in this game.
Eli Reardon, I think, is going to be playing. I'm going to be very interested to see what happens with the tight ends this week, because I know
I would love to see him
Stays has
back.
kind of disappeared, but I think that's more of a function of
Yeah.
of other guys emerging. So now is this where Eli Reardon is going to suddenly appear and just catch over 100 yards of offense?
Yeah,
I don't know.
he's a stud.
I want to see us come out in a set with Reardon, Sherwood, Stays, and Evans. I want to see a 4 tight end set.
There we go.
At least a quarterback sneak for the first down on 4th and 1. You'd want to see
why not? Right? Why not? So I think that could be. I mean, it's our strongest position group. It has been for years.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
Every single. I mean, has Evans caught a touchdown pass yet this year? I don't think so. But sure,
not a touchdown. Yeah, you're right.
No, but Sherwood has, and Stays, of course, has, and
yep.
you know, Evans, of course, has, you know, caught everything else except a touchdown. And so maybe, you know, so Reardon. I mean, we're gonna have 4 tight ends with, you know, touchdown catches this year before it's all over. I mean, so
good problem to have.
Put them all in
That'd
there.
Be very cool.
And Cooper Flanagan, we aren't even talking about him.
We haven't even talked about. Yeah, I'll tell you what, a stud
Yeah.
that hasn't even gotten to the field yet.
No, he's played. I've seen him out there. 87.
Has
right?
he?
I think he's got Mayer's number. But yeah, he's been he's played. I think I saw him. I think he played, you know, at least a handful of plays on Saturday night.
But I had heard a lot of people thought that he might sneak into significant playing time.
Not
not to be surprised by that. Which that just tells you how deep that core is. I mean, man, that's a good sign.
Forgive me. We need a 5 tight end set, right?
There you go.
Yeah. Why not? Why not? 5 tight ends and 1 running back, right? Do I have my math right or no? What, 5? No, empty backfield and 5 tight ends.
Empty backfield,
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Good deal. We'll leave it there. You've been listening to Dome and Domer, an online conversation about Notre Dame sports from a fan's perspective. For Mike Coffey, Edward Anik, I'm Mike Bremer. Thanks for listening.